how different is it that this moment in time is a memorandum of understanding and not the actual deal? You did hear Peter Doocy's exchange there with President Trump, and they did note that this is not the same thing as the ultimate peace deal that would hopefully be negotiated within 60 days of the signing of the memorandum of understanding. Let's get to our guest, Jared Halpern, the White House correspondent and political anchor for Fox News Radio. Jared, thank you for the time today. It's good to have you back here on the show.
Good afternoon.
So can you talk to us a little bit about President Trump's G7 trip? Of course, the main topic du jour is that Iran deal or memorandum of understanding to lead to a deal. What can you let us know?
I think that's an important distinction, and one that President Trump made very clear in the news conference he just had, is that he kind of downplayed it a little bit, right? He said it is important that we got to this point, but it is a memorandum of understanding, and if it doesn't work out in 60 days, we can just resume the bombing. And every time he was kind of asked about, well, how do you ensure or how do you enforce that Iran will do what they say they will do, that was kind of the answer, is that I let them know that we can just bomb the hell out of them whenever we want to, and I don't think they want that to happen, and so we think that they'll abide by the rules. But the details here and the timing of how everything works is going to be really important, because the U.S. draft of this memorandum of understanding does open up the Strait of Hormuz, right? And it makes it toll-free. But that only applies for these 60 days. So much of this only applies for these 60 days. And so there are going to be questions about letting Iran sell oil, that potential billions of dollars that they bring in, and then this falling apart or not being agreed to the way that, one side or the other agrees to. How does Lebanon play into this? How does Israel respond to being told that they have to include Lebanon in a ceasefire? So there are still a lot of question marks heading into this 60-day period that is supposed to get underway when this is officially signed, we believe, on Friday, by Vice President J.D. Vance, although the president also just said, hey, maybe I'll stick around here in France for a couple of days and do it myself, but also said maybe I don't want my name on it.
Yeah.
So I do think that today was maybe the first time I heard not hesitancy on the part of the president, but maybe some level setting on the part of the president, that this is not a final nuclear agreement with Iran.
Yeah, a bit of managing of those expectations, and I don't know if admitting is the correct way to refer to President Trump talking about that, but I do think that maybe the discussion in the media with a lot of punditry, criticism certainly from the left and the right on what is in the memorandum of understanding, that the media has jumped quite a bit, really hot on this topic, very upset that they don't have the wording in their hands to react to. But it is important to potentially reset expectations here, that this is just the agreement to discuss an agreement, it seems as though.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this extends the ceasefire. And what is different about this ceasefire than the ceasefire that has been in place since April is that it does deal with the Strait of Hormuz, and it does deal with the U.S. naval blockade. And it would appear, at least on its face, to maybe not lift sanctions on Iran, but afford some limited oil sales and the suspension of sanctions as it relates to Iran being able to ship out that oil. And so that is going to be, again, I think, questions that lawmakers are going to have on Capitol Hill. The president talked about this $300 billion rebuilding fund. He said it's not going to be a U.S. Money. This is going to be investments, Gulf countries and others, but also said, listen, if Iran does everything we ask them to, maybe we do invest in Iran and in sort of that partnership. So that seems to be a discussion for post 60 days MOU. But it is why not just the media wanted to read this, but you talk to senators on Capitol Hill, even Republican senators that are very supportive of President Trump. They're very eager to get their hands on this document as well.
Yeah. Okay, we're speaking with Jared Halpern, White House correspondent and political anchor for Fox News. Did this G7 summit, is this the time of year where this always happens, and it just happened to occur the week of the week preceding the signing of a memorandum of understanding? All of this coming together as coincidence? Were there other things that were intended to be discussed?
No, the G7's always early June. In fact, my Facebook memory last year was me in Calgary at the G7. So I definitely remember watching the end of the U.S. Open at a hotel lobby bar last year. So this is the timing of the G7. And in fact, it was delayed a day or two to allow the UFC fight and all of those events at the White House. I don't think the initial agenda was so heavily focused on Iran, although a lot of Middle Eastern leaders were invited. So was President Zelensky. There was a lot of conversation, obviously, about trying to get to a place where they can end the war in Ukraine. President Trump says that he has spoken a couple of times during this summit with Vladimir Putin, who was not invited to the summit. The other big thing that is not going to get a lot of attention, just with everything else going on that was talked about at this G7, AI and some sort of international understanding to set up guardrails for artificial intelligence. There is obviously a big AI race happening. There's a lot of concern about how AI can be used. There is a lot of opportunity with AI. What there is not is a lot of sort of standards internationally or even in this country, frankly, on kind of what is and isn't allowed as you develop this new kind of technology.
Well, we appreciate your time to break down some of this very, very, very busy news cycle and this memorandum of understanding. Is there a set time when this is going to be signed for sure, or is it still speculation?
I think it's still speculation. The understanding is it will be signed at this pretty nice resort on the lake in Geneva, Switzerland, Lucerne, in that area. The vice president officially is supposed to represent the United States, but there is now some reporting out there that perhaps it gets elevated to the presidential level. Perhaps it gets signed more quickly because, again, the reopening of the strait, the end of the blockade, the oil sales, all of those kind of frontline concessions that both countries are providing do not happen until it is officially signed. So there does seem to be some urgency to get that done. And again, that would also start the clock on the 60 days of technical nuclear negotiations.
And then one quick follow-up. Jared Halpern speaking with us right now. This deal, I'm going to go back to that, calling it the memorandum of understanding and not so much
MOU,
a deal.
Yeah.
Yes, the MOU. My co-host pronounces it. How do you pronounce it?
Meow.
This is what we're going with right now.
There you go.
Jared, how much, realistically, how much do the words in that document come from the President of the United States, and how much of it is coming from, military, Rubio, those types of players? How much of Donald Trump's heart and soul is in this? From what I understand, it's quite a short document.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think the big picture is President Trump. Here's what the president was going to demand, big picture. So that's included. The wording and sort of how you get there, that's always done. I don't want to say like mid-management level, but it is kind of the career, technical, diplomatic folks, that deal with that, because they are talking about in this memorandum of understanding kind of nuclear enrichment levels and the technicalities of that and the process by which you test what this downgrade is and all of that. So there is definitely a level of technicality there that I don't think any president, frankly, would write. But the big picture, and President Trump has talked about this, the big picture of what he wanted Iran to kind of lay out and agree to and say is in there. They won't obtain or acquire or develop a nuclear weapon. They will reopen the Strait of Hormuz toll-free, as the president puts it. So that stuff is in there. I don't know how much of it he sat down and wrote, but we do know that the president has sort of been provided with previous offers and has rejected them.
Yeah.
And so it is clear that he has had a big role in kind of getting to the point where he would sign a document, let alone the Iranians.
All right. Well, thank you so much for the insight today, Jared Halpern. It's good to have you on the show, and we'll stay in touch because we know the news cycle moves pretty fast, and glad to see how on top of it you are to share with us.
Sure thing. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye. White House correspondent and political anchor for Fox News Radio, Jared Halpern. All I can think about now is every time he hears MOU, he hears Ryan.
Mouth.